Hi everyone, welcome to Sips for Change.
Martine, we've worked on a lot of trade shows in our careers, haven't we?
Yeah, personally, I've worked a bunch, all different size too, from tabletop displays to big custom booth builds. What's on your mind about trade shows?
Oh, you know me. I've just been thinking about the carbon footprint of these events and what that must look like. I mean, think about it. From all of those things being shipped in, the setup, the food stations, and the teardown.
Yeah, not to mention all the people and labor it takes to set them up. It's crazy that they put together these massive, elaborate setups and then after a few days, boom, all of it gets torn down and most of it gets trashed.
Seriously. Despite how impressive it is to see them build all of it up and then tear it all down, sometimes in a matter of 24 hours to 48 hours, it's still really sad to think about all of the wastes that are coming from these events.
I think trade shows do a good job not wasting as much food as conferences do, though. Many of the trade shows I've been to tend to have food stands where people buy their own food. That's definitely better than having buffet throughout the convention center.
That's true, but to play devil's advocate here, food waste can be composted if it's sorted and managed properly, right? But waste generated from these trade shows in the convention centers are more often plastic waste, non recyclable, such as packing materials, booth materials, disposable signage, giveaways, and that also includes the paper brochures, single use plastics, and promotional items, which most likely ends up in landfills after. I read an article that says the average trade show generates about 100 tons of waste, which, FYI, that is about the weight of a blue whale, which is the biggest mammal in the world.
Wow, what makes me sad is thinking, what world are we going to leave to the next generations? You say non recyclables, but some of those paper brochures or promo items can actually be reused or recycled if the waste is sorted and managed properly, right?
Yeah, exactly. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that they don't want to ship leftover items back, so they're just trying to get rid of everything and give them away, or they even throw it out after the event ends.
It's just because shipping and package handling is so expensive and tedious to and from these types of events, so people find it as a hassle. If even organizers or convention centers made this easier or cheaper, people would be less reluctant.
That's absolutely true. Since you brought up shipping and handling, some of the things that people also don't think about are the packing and the shipping of those materials. For instance, the show organizers that are bringing the furniture, the carpeting that is being brought in by these big trucks are usually wrapped in plastic. That's how they keep them clean. They also put down a lot of plastic to cover the carpets in these venues if they are already carpeted, because when they're bringing in machinery, it's how they protect the carpet and not damaging the carpet in the venue. Many of these booths also order custom carpeting, right? Like they want their own colors, they all want their own different vinyl hardwood looking floors in their booths. So all of these have to be custom cut to fit the booth. And a lot of the times they're tossed afterwards because they can't be reused because they are custom cut to that booth.
Yeah, that's really true. I remember a big booth I organized in Canada. The setup was crazy. All of this equipment has to be moved in by large teams of people, and most often than not, they're moved in overnight or rushed to complete setup. That's a lot of labor, not just from the convention center side, but also the show decorator, the individual companies that hire their own booth, building companies, and the custodial staff. Some of these workers are working long hours and doing a lot of manual labor.
It's true. From personal experience, there's been plenty of times where I'm setting up a booth and the on-site staff that is helping in move equipment are usually immigrants and they don't speak English. So it also raises a flag on fair labor and not overworking staff.
I know in the US, a lot of convention centers and major hotels tend to have labor unions, so they're pretty strict about employees' work hours, right? So it's the private companies hired by exhibitors that we should be mindful of.
That's true. There are types of these are the types of things that event planners can be more aware of when they're having conversations with their vendors and understanding their entire supply chain.
Yep, absolutely. So going back to the waste, what are some other suggestions you have for planners regarding managing that when exhibiting at a show?
In terms of the booth itself, I would recommend that companies seriously evaluate the ROIs of these events. Of course, there are shows that companies have to be at, so perhaps consider reusing the booth. Design the graphics in a way that allows you to reuse the same booth at multiple events. If the event is in the same region every year, consider local storage to save on shipping costs and missions as well.
For companies that may not have the storage or budget to do that, there are also booth rental companies that can utilize, right? These
Mhm.
vendors help event planners design their booth using equipment they already have in stock. Most times, these rental companies are contracted with the show organizers and are already shipping other materials or booth for other companies.
That's right. Shipping things in bulk with other companies is going to cut down on some of the emissions. Most often than not, these equipment are already coming from a central warehouse. For instance, having 10 booths shipped from Florida to Texas is still so much better than having 10 booths shipped to Texas from like 10 different states.
Very true. So tell me, what are some other ways we can cut down some of this waste?
I would definitely consider coming back on giveaways. There are plenty of other things that companies can do to draw attention to their booth rather than the free giveaways. Activations like games, raffles, unique food and beverages, and maybe even entertainment can do just as well, if not better, than giveaways.
Oh, yes. I think people have enough notebooks and water bottles from events, honestly. So, from a CSR perspective, companies can also think about doing kit packing activities in their booth to donate to a local organization or have charity gift cards vouchers as giveaways instead. This would be less wasteful and better for the community.
Yeah, those would be great.
I know you, Tammy. That's probably not the only thing on your mind about trade shows.
You're right. I'm also thinking about how these convention centers use an insane amount of energy just to keep these events running. Apparently, the average trade show consumes about 10 million gallons of water, emits 20,000 tons of carbon dioxide. Like that's the same amount of water that is needed to fill 250,000 baths. Think about taking 250,000 baths. And it's also the equivalent of the carbon emissions from 6,127 passenger vehicles. So all of that lighting, all the electronics, the heating and the cooling system, it's like you've got a mini city running in a condensed space for a few days straight.
Oh my gosh, yes. The AC is always cranked up too. You're inside this huge space with hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, and it's freezing. Imagine the energy bill for that.
Exactly. It's like you're trying to air condition the entire city, and it's like 90 degrees outside. So it's crazy. And don't forget the massive screens and projectors. I know we encourage digital signage and displays, but when you think about how many screens that are plugged into the grid and how many giant plasmas there are in a typical convention center, it's just a bit of worrisome. Like, kudos to those engineers and those electricians that make sure the circuits don't blow up.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's just finding the right balance. Some 10 feet by 10 feet or 3 meters by 3 meters booth have two monitors alone. If you think about some convention centers that allow up to hundreds of those booths, that's a lot of monitors. And that's just the monitors. I've seen event organizers bring in projection walls or extra large monitors for all kinds of branding or displays. Those digital walls are cool to look at. I love them, but they suck up so much power.
Yeah, not to mention all of the computers and tablets and charging stations people need throughout the event. It's like a tech jungle in there, all plugged in and drawing power constantly.
Yeah, you're right. Well, to offer some optimism here, I know there are a lot of convention centers that are moving towards green energy and energy efficient equipment to help with some of these issues. We saw this in a lot of the venues for the Paris Olympics, right?
Yes, that's true. The industry is indeed working towards a more efficient solution, so that's a positive.
Yeah, but there are other factors that exhibitors have more control over as well, right? In addition to the booth itself and the shipping of materials, human transport is also a big carbon footprint of the event.
That's true. Thanks for pointing that out because people are flying in from all over the country or all over the world to attend these trade shows, right? I've seen companies send like 15, 20 people to one booth. There is definitely no need for all of those people to attend for one booth. Some companies buy carbon offsets for their staff travels, but it's not always apples to apples when you think of the depletion of resources and also the congestion these attendees are causing the city when they come in for these trade shows.
Totally. This is another area that companies can be more proactive about when evaluating their ROI for these shows. They should cut down on the number of people at these events and only send key staff.
Exactly. When you zoom out and look at all of the logistics behind these shows, booths, displays, staff, it's very carbon intensive.
But you have to admit that it's extremely impressive when you see all of this build up so quickly and attendees show up having no idea that the space was an empty warehouse a few days ago.
Totally. From an event standpoint, it's super cool.
Yes, and based on our chat today, we do know and see that our industry is making efforts to do better.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's okay, Tammy. I know you're still bothered, but the first step is always awareness, right? Hopefully, our channel and this episode highlights some aspects of trade shows that some event planners weren't aware of, and now they can be more mindful.
You're absolutely right. I'm trying to be optimistic and let's be hopeful for our industry because they are making progress towards sustainable trade shows.
I'll toast to that.
Thanks, Martine, for always being such a ray of sunshine all the time and being optimistic. And thank you also to our audience for joining us today. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you follow and subscribe and join us for our future chats.
Until next time, bye.
Bye.